I felt so embarrassed and I felt so ashamed, and I felt like the people who had watched the show, the people who didn't watch the show, knowing I didn't come back, would think, oh, she didn't come back because she's not funny. And the people who did watch the show, and if they thought I was funny, they would think, oh, she must be an asshole. And so I just thought, on the public view, I don't look like a winner here, you know?
And welcome back. You're listening to Hysteria, and this is another installment of Personal Political, the segment that takes things personally. Alyssa, when's the last time you were rejected?
Well, if we're talking about by my cats, that's daily. But other than that, you know, I think 2004 was my really bad last rejection, but 1994 was the worst of all time.
It's funny to me that you remember your last rejection as happening in 2004 when you work, like your day job is within an industry of rejection.
I don't take that shit seriously.
Oh,
I can't.
Amazing.
Also, antidepressants and SSRIs have helped.
I need to get into that. Let's bring in the rest of our panel, both of whom are familiar with rejection and hopefully have better memories of it than Alyssa Mastromonaco. Our first panelist is helping to organize an event called Here for the Kids, which hopes to end gun violence across the states. For more info, go to thekids.com. She's also an actor in the upcoming film You Hurt My Feelings, premiering May 26th. Michaela Watkins, welcome to Hysteria.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm so happy to be back here in person.
I know.
It's just so meaningful.
You've been globetrotting.
I know, we've done it. Well, not just that. I mean, you know, I feel like I've just bookended the pandemic finally, because I think I was meant to come in, and then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then we had to shut it down.
Yeah. We were like, we're temporarily shutting down the
Yeah.
office.
And then we tried this lame-o cocktail hour on Zoom. Remember? That was, we gave it our best.
We really did try. Do you remember pandemic cocktail hours?
Yeah.
Like we were all doing that for a while.
Yeah.
Imagine. I mean, now I think people are drinking on Zoom, but they're not making a thing of it.
Right.
They're just doing it.
But thank you for plugging Here for the Kids, because it's a June 5th in Denver event, and basically we are 25,000 women, mostly white women, led by Black, Indigenous, women of color, brown women, who are leading the way, following the Civil Rights Playbook, basically the abolitionist playbook of slavery, and we're taking it to the guns because they're just out of control, and they're the number one killer of kids. So that's why it's called Here for the Kids.
Amazing.
So if you can sign up, and it's a movement. Keep supporting. You know, I still am supporting Everytown, and Moms Demand. This is not a either or. This is a and. This is a let's all come together. We all have the same goal, which is to save our kids. So
Are you going to go to Denver for?
I absolutely am going to Denver, and it's, by the way, a sit-in. It's not there's no marching, no chanting, no megaphones. I'm bringing my knitting. I'm bringing a chair. I'm bringing like white lady things, you know, oat milk latte. I'm not going to wear Lululemon. That won't be happening.
That'd be comfy though for sitting. Lululemon
You know
is
what?
nice and stretchy.
Okay, strike that. I'm going to go get some Lululemon. And basically, you know, we forget since we have a panel of white women today, I can say to us that, you know, we are the biggest voting bloc, and we forget our power. And so we have to put it to use and stop standing on the sidelines going, can you believe it? Now we can get all our rights back. We can end gun violence. We can get our reproductive rights.
Yeah.
So many
As
things.
Samuel Alito said, we can always just vote, right?
Well, it's more than voting, because we have a direct action. We're going to demand no more gun sales and issue a buyback. So we can do this.
Amazing.
We can do this. But everybody has to show up.
Yeah, I want to go to Denver. I want to do that.
Oh, please,
I want
Mama,
to sit down with
please.
I want to sit with some knitting. That sounds awesome.
Yes.
Rounding out our panel today, our next panelist is going on the road with her show That's Messed Up, an SVU podcast. They're performing in June and hitting San Francisco, Tempe, Denver, and LA. For more info, go to that'smesseduplive.com. Kara Klenk, welcome to Hysteria.
Thank you so much for having me back in person.
Back
this
in
is
person.
exciting.
I
I said
saw
the
you-
last time I was here in person, I had a new baby, and she just turned 4.
What?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God. Time. What is it?
Time.
I saw Carrie yesterday at the most
Yes.
star-studded playground
Yes.
in our neighborhood. So
I actually met an actress at the playground yesterday. Well, we had met before, and I was like, I was just talking about you because I'd love to have you on my podcast. It's about Law and Order SVU.
You saw her
I
yesterday?
booked a guest at the playground yesterday.
that's hilarious. Okay, so we live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of parents who had kids after 35.
Excellent.
Working in
How dare you.
entertainment. I know. I'm super
I mean, that sounds gross, but keep going.
Well, it's a lot of people who are Hollywood adjacent, but not necessarily the flashiest people. And yesterday I saw an actor from How to Get Away with Murder at the playground with her beautiful child. And she was really dressed down, but I was like, I know who
Just
you are.
like us.
I don't know.
Getting away with murder is just like us.
I know. And then I saw a really famous influencer with her two children.
Ooh.
She was super nice, and she was just not wearing any makeup, and she looked just gorgeous. And I was like, oh God, I can't come to this playground anymore. Everyone's too glamorous. It's they should put a red carpet in the entrance to the playground because that's really funny. Okay, today we're going to talk about something that I think all of us except not Alyssa Mastromonaco are pretty familiar with as people.
Must be great to be Alyssa.
I was kidding, by the way.
Well, we're talking about rejection. There was an article in the New York Times about, right now it's college letter season, right? And people are getting into their dream college or getting rejected by their dream college. And when I was in high school, what we used to do was just not talk about it ever again. But now the kids are having rejection parties.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Where they're having cakes that are I didn't get into Stanford or or I didn't get into UC Irvine or whatever. And they're kind of taking back control. And I think that that's kind of beautiful in its own way because I don't know that I could do that with run-of-the-mill rejections that I suffer from day to day. Alyssa, I would love to hear the story of your big 2004 rejection and how you feel about it today.
Okay. So just to be clear, in 1994, I was one of those kids who got 10 rejection letters on the same day. And you know what? Here's the thing about rejection. I'm always great, if I had gotten into Cornell, Brown, or Georgetown, would I be the person I am today? No, I'd probably be an asshole. So I turned out for the better.
Georgetown rejected me too, Alyssa. What's up?
Me too.
Oh,
I didn't even apply.
fuck the Hoyas. And when I met Dan Pfeiffer, I was like, oh, you went to Georgetown, didn't you? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I went to UVM and smoked a lot of pot, and I'm still here next to you. 2004, we had just lost the Kerry campaign, which was not rejection. See, I'm also very clear about the difference between losing and rejection. But I was unemployed, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I was in the middle of this real competitive job hunt. There were 3 people up for this job to be the political director of something Bono was doing. And I had made it to the end. It was one of 2, and they ditched me, and I was devastated, also very poor, had no money, totally unemployed, and I was really hanging my hat on this. But then I ended up working for Barack Obama. So it was kind of okay, but that one really wounded me.
Being rejected by Bono wounded you?
It was well, yeah, because I thought I was better.
I mean, you first of all, you are better than Bono, and
oh yeah, him too. I'm not just the guy who beat me.
So was it traumatic when Apple just dropped that whole YouTube album on your phone without you asking?
Honestly, I felt targeted. Kara.
Oh my God, there's an old joke that our last name is Ryan, but we're not big U2 fans in the house where I grew up. And there's an old joke. What's the difference between Jesus and Bono?
What?
Jesus doesn't think he's Bono. Oh, we're going to get some angry hate mail from very, very sincere,
that's all right.
Earnest U2 fans, and I'm sorry, that band sucks. Okay,
How dare you?
I know. They're bad. They're bad. I can't.
Hard disagree.
I can't.
Wait, there's not a couple songs you think are good?
There's a couple songs that are good.
The City of Blinding Lights is
Okay. Well, I think, okay, here's another. I also think the Red Hot Chili Peppers suck. They've just written the same song over and over again. Some versions of that song have been good.
When I saw them go on tour in 92 or 3, I guess, maybe 2,
Oh,
Like,
were you at early Lollapalooza, Michaela?
Oh, hell, I was at the first Lollapalooza.
Oh, my
the first
God.
one where Jane's Addiction headlined.
Oh my
Girl,
God.
you know it.
Yes.
This woman belongs in a museum. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna get back on track talking about rejection, but I reject Bono.
Yeah, it was like this podcast is just Erin rejecting bands that were popular in the 90s.
I've got a lot of opinions, and I'm going to share all of them right now. Michaela, I'm very interested in hearing your experience with rejection and your attitudes around rejection, because when I think about acting and comedy and doing like live stuff, it just feels like such a vulnerable profession.
It's like it's seated in rejection. I mean, basically, like acting and performing are rejection is the baseline, and then when you get something, that's the unique part. You know what I mean?
Did you have to like reprogram your
the
brain?
The unique part isn't getting rejected. The unique part is getting a job.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, I'm so comfortable. I should say I was not comfortable, but I was expecting to be rejected because, the old adage, like when a door closes, a window opens, it's like, so I didn't get the job, but I got in front of the casting director. My biggest rejection, to me, the one that was on such a public display, was when I didn't get asked back for my second season of SNL after a year that I thought I was good,
Yeah, you had a lot of like clippable. I remember seeing you, and your sketches were in a lot of times you were like featured, like, oh, check out what happened this week on SNL, and it was always like you were. It
was very shocking.
Yeah, it was.
It was very shocking to those of us that watched the show.
It was
like my family was like quoting your sketches. We were like, wait, where did she go? What happened?
Oh yeah, the blogger during Weekend Update.
Yeah, and the one that was like, do they ever call you Fiona Snapple? Like, I mean, we like the folk singer.
Oh,
that yeah.
I don't think that was me.
No, for sure it was.
It was?
Yes.
Okay.
You did some. Well, am I talking about the blogger then?
Maybe.
The blogger is the one that's like
the
drinking
bitch
from
please
the big,
thing.
yeah.
Anyway,
oh no, wait.
The whole point.
You had one where you were like a hippie person. I remember.
Oh
it.
yeah, no, I've been probably, but I don't remember, and that's there. You go. I don't remember. But I, and so,
how did that happen? Like, how did they let you know that you weren't being asked back
in an unkind way?
Oh,
no.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. Everybody got their contracts renewed, and I didn't, and Casey Wilson didn't. And she called me, and I had no idea that people had gotten their contracts renewed. So she called and said, "Did you get your contract renewed?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Everybody else did." And I was like, oh. And then that pit,
Yeah.
And then my manager, of course, called, and they said, "Oh, no, we love Michaela. Of course we're having her back." And I thought, well, why are you doing this? This is unkind. And then I heard that they hired 2 new women, brunettes, 10 years younger than me, and they were very.
Who were these brunettes?
They were very. SNL had like 14 men and 4 women, so I knew when they hired 2 new women, they weren't going to have, 6, 7 women, because they just didn't.
I mean, that's just not how the population works. It is it is 14 men to 4 women, just in general.
So I thought, well, I'm out, and I didn't think Casey would be, and I didn't even hear directly from Lorne. I heard from him via my manager. He told my manager, and he was.
But after saying, "We want her back," of course, and it's like that.
Yeah, so it was really drawn out all summer. And I remember I ran into Rachel Dratch. She wasn't on the show anymore, and she was like, "This is what they do." And she said, it's like they're cats and you're a mouse, and they just bat you around. And then when it seems like you're dead, they're like then they like,
hey, wake up.
Then they renew your contract.
Oh my God.
And so I thought, okay, maybe they're just fucking with me. I don't know what it is. And so anyway, long story short, it was, my friend said, "Are you on Twitter?" I said, "No." And she said, "You better get on Twitter right now because you're trending." And I said, "Oh, no, that's okay." Boy, was that the dumbest thing I ever did, because that would have been the moment to join Twitter, like right when it had just started. And,
yeah.
Anyway, but I I felt so embarrassed and I felt so ashamed, and I felt like the people who had watched the show, the people who didn't watch the show, knowing I didn't come back, would think, oh, she didn't come back because she's not funny. And the people who did watch the show, and if they thought I was funny, they would think, oh, she must be an asshole. And so I just thought, on the public view, I don't look like a winner here, you know? And there was so much kindness and so much love. But what happened was I was depressed and I came home and I was unemployment, or I filled out an application for unemployment to the degree that I did an audition. And I always like to reuse paper. I did an audition for this really, really bad medical show where, like, she had a hematoma and then got hit by a boat and then was, like, dying and then went in a coma and then, like, her, you know, turns out she was having an affair and somebody tried to kill her. It was like everything that could have happened happened to
Days
this
of
one
Our
woman.
Lives?
No, it was like it was I got it. I got the part. But anyway, I realized, because this is to deal with rejection. After every audition, I very ceremoniously throw out my sides, my audition papers. And when I threw them out after the audition, I saw on the back of it, I had printed the EDD form, the unemployment form. And so when I'm standing there holding my papers, the producers are watching my unemployment form on the other side.
Oh my God. The unemployment form should be on the other side of every audition side. Like, just, you're going to need it.
But to put a fine point on this, I got together with a friend of mine. We were both depressed, unemployed, and I felt very embarrassed and ashamed. And we wrote a pilot just to see if we could. And it got picked up and it went for a season. And we were executive producers on a series. And I didn't even know I could write. So, you know what? I'm saying? A door closes, a window opens.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, and both you and Casey have had amazing careers.
Yeah, and now I really love my career. I genuinely
And a lot
love
of the
my
people
career.
that have only been one season people on SNL have done really great things.
Yeah, I think if you have grit, and I think we come into the world with it, or we have to develop it. But I think if you didn't come into the world with it, please develop it, because I love my career right now. I love it so much, and I'm so grateful for it. And I think the people who do one season on SNL go and do other things because they don't want to be remembered as the person who had one season on SNL and nothing else.
Yeah.
You know.
Kara, same question for you. What was your biggest rejection you're comfortable talking about? And
Oh
how did
my gosh.
How did it play out?
I mean, it's not even like a comedy thing, because like Michaela said, like for me, I auditioned for so much stuff in New York, I remember, and I just would forget about it the minute the audition was over. I was like, I can't think about it because I'm not getting any of this stuff. And then if somebody calls me and says, you got it, it's like, what a fun surprise. So that's like, I feel like a self-protection thing you do from rejection. But a huge rejection for me, I am not athletic at all. But in where I grew up, it was like you had to do sports. And I played freshman field hockey, and then I tried out for junior varsity field hockey sophomore year, and I didn't make the team. And it was like, I just remember, like, I'm getting like a full body like sensation of like lying in my twin bed at home being like, this is so embarrassing. Like, I can't believe I got cut from JV. Like, and I don't care about sports. I'm not good at them, and I don't care. I don't know why. It just felt like everybody knew who got cut from stuff, and it was like,
yeah.
Oh no.
Kara, I
Alyssa.
got cut from JV field hockey.
Thank you. I knew this. I
And
knew
that was
I knew
terrible.
we had that.
And I will say that was humiliating.
Yeah.
Humiliating. Yeah. Your name's not up on the piece of paper
Yeah,
outside
and I
the
don't know
gym.
why it's like looking back, I wish I could have told my younger self, like, oh, you don't care about sports, and sports are not going to matter at all. Like, you're not going to play them in college. You're not going to, like, you know, but...
Did you ever think that you were going to play them in college, or was this just
No.
like a random thing that you were like, I'm going to waltz right in?
I
And
think it was a big part of the social, like, and like the structure of school. It was just like, you're on the field hockey team, or you're on the softball team, or you're on the volleyball team. And like, I was like, what team am I on now? You know, what am I? And then it's like, oh, I'm going to like work on the newspaper and be the editor of the yearbook and do the things that I'm supposed to be doing.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I remember like my mom trying to like talk me off the ledge about it. And I was just like, you don't understand. I didn't make field hockey.
Oh, man.
Well,
man.
because remember back then, field hockey, you went away to camp. There was like field hockey camp over the summer, and you traveled with the
sorority.
boys' soccer team, and you went
Yeah.
to, it was a whole thing. That was a
And field hockey was kind of like...
That's still fresh.
Yeah. And field hockey was kind of like the cool girl, hot girl sport, at least where I went to school. And so I was like, I'm not one of those people, you know? Like I was like, I've been told I'm not hot nor cool. So... Yeah. Neither hot nor cool. That's
okay. I just remembered something. You just reminded me. I got cut from my theater program at Boston University, by the way.
What?
Yeah, this is major. I went to an acting conservatory, and after sophomore year, they do cuts. You can still graduate because they started something called theater studies. So I did, but I was cut. I'm one of 2 or 3 people in my class who are acting still.
Oh my gosh!
Only of everybody, and now the university keeps asking me to, come back and be part of it. I'm like, oh, now you want me?
Yeah.
But I only say this so that your listeners can hear. Like, you don't know in the moment. Rejection is not a be all end all. It's going to feel like it, but it is not. It absolutely is not. You have no idea what. It's just part of your becoming. That's all.
I think part of it so there's like professional rejection, which I think that there are like concrete steps where like I tend to try to take my sadness or disappointment and channel it into something else. And that has led to me, I think, being able to do a bunch of different things to make money, which is like good because, when we have stuff like an implosion of digital media and a writer's strike happening at the same time, I'm like, oh, cool. Well, I know how to, I have a podcast because I learned how to do that on the heels of something that didn't work out for me. But I think that something that's a little bit harder to deal with is like social rejection. And I feel like the things that stung me the most throughout my life have been like feeling socially rejected. Like in, everybody has that experience, that formative experience in middle school, or it's usually the 8th or 9th grade, I think, for girls.
Seventh.
Yeah,
7th for me was a nightmare.
6th grade.
Right. I think anywhere between, 6 and 11.
A friend drop.
Yeah. You come back from summer vacation and suddenly your friends aren't your friends anymore.
Yeah.
Or there's one person who you kind of always didn't really get along with and they're the new queen bee and they're having sleepovers and everybody's invited to the sleepover except you.
Horrific.
And then so you're just very like, you feel very rejected and you don't know what you did wrong and your old best friend is now the best friend of this person.
Yes.
Because, and then, and there aren't very many people in your class. And so you have to be friends with the weird Christian girls and you join the cross country team because you're
the bad girls. And that's when you start the bad things,
stuff. Well, I
stuff.
joined the Christian girls because they did like lock-ins and they had like youth group sleepovers, and I was like, well, I'll be included if Jesus doesn't reject anybody.
If they lock the doors, they can't make me leave.
Yeah, they can't. This is a church, man. You can't reject me.
I joined the bad girls and got felt up.
Oh no!
Right.
So
man, I didn't.
Two roads diverged in a wood over here.
But it was like really, and it's funny because now that girl, who's now a grown-up person, she and I are like friendly. She's got her life back in the Midwest, and I've got my life out here, and we're friends on socials. And she seems like a really nice person. Like we're not the same people we were in 8th grade, but in my mind, it's just such a scarring experience that. When I interact with her now, there's like a bunch of scar tissue that I'm like, oh, wait, no, you're fine. Like this, I have to remind myself that you're not in 8th grade anymore, and this is actually fine, and she's nice, and you like her. It's like it's just kind of a mind fuck. And then there are a couple times in college, like I went to a school with a lot of field hockey players, if you will.
Gotcha.
And my section of my dorm my freshman year had a lot of field hockey types, a lot of like ponytails with ribbons in them, like that sort of type of person. And that wasn't I'd never like been to a country club. I didn't know, that's not me. But I felt like I wanted to be a part of that group because that seemed to be like how everybody at my school acted. And if I wanted to be successful at my school, I had to be a part of that group. And it just like didn't work out. And I kind of realized when there was sort of like, because freshman year, there's always this weird, like, your friends your first 2 weeks of freshman year, you look back on it and you're like, it's weird that I hung out with that person.
Yeah, totally.
For like a week, we were best friends. But like, once the chips kind of fall, I ended up finding a group that I was able to be much more authentic with, and we're all like great, and we're all still in touch with each other. But it was like painful. That reshuffling was like very painful.
That happened to me right before I turned 30. I had dated someone for like 5 years and we broke up. And the breaking up wasn't the worst part. It was that he was like very cool and everybody loved him. And I just got dropped like a hot potato in Washington, D.C. People were having parties next door to where I lived and I was not invited. People who I thought were my friends were like, oh, no. We're inviting him, so we can't invite you. And he was actually like, where's Alyssa? Like, why wasn't Alyssa invited? And they're like, oh, no, because it's like weird and we choose you. And he was the one who's like, you're deranged. But it fucked me up so much. It's how I ended up getting my first cat Shrum, because I was so deeply lonely and didn't know what to do.
Alyssa, same fucking thing.
What happened?
No.
Yes.
It's fucked up.
Yes.
It was so, I was sick. I was the thinnest I ever was because I was so broken, truly, from how everybody just turned their backs on me.
I don't think I've ever picked the man when friends have broken up. I don't think I've ever picked the man.
Yeah, I mean,
well, DC's a fucking shitty place.
I had the audacity to break up with the like drummer of the band, like the one cool band in our school, high school. And I had the audacity of not getting back together with him after he'd been cheating on me. And I was persona non grata.
what?
Yeah, it's brutal. It was, I can feel it. I still get hot thinking about it. I was so devastated.
Yeah.
Devastated. And then I got rejected on
monologues I've written in my head.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. The things the dressing down your mirror has received.
I'm sorry, Alyssa, I cut you off. Please.
No, I was just going to say, and then I was subsequently rejected by everybody on Match.com.
Oh man. Online dating.
I was like, this is not for me. I'm getting a cat.
Oh wow. That is a modern day rejection machine. I
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah,
I missed it, but
I
bet.
met my husband on a dating app.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
OkCupid. I met him on OkCupid.
I have a lot of friends that have gotten married from OkCupid.
Yeah, but if I were like, I feel like dating itself, if you're just like, I just want to date, I just want to casually date, I think that kind of the younger generation is like, this fucking sucks and we hate it and we don't want to date or be around people at all. I think that social rejection, I guess this is one way that it ends up being positive, is that when I have felt rejected by groups of people, when like, you know, sometimes in the past I've like run toward another group of people or run toward another person or run toward a relationship. But the most productive I've ever been is when I've focused on like, no, I'm going to be okay with myself. You know, I don't really actually need to hang around. Like, why do I need a group of 8 people to go out to bars? It takes like, you know, 10 times longer to do anything if you're trying to do it in a group. So I just kind of like figured out how to do things by myself. And now I hate everyone and I don't like doing anything with anybody ever. So the moral of the story is do less than what I've done. But yeah, I mean, I think that just developing the skills to appreciate being alone and understand like that you don't need to be around other people at all and you can get your happiness that way is something that can develop from like social rejection, I think.
There's also social media rejection, of course, which
when someone that is like really cool follows you and then a couple days later they don't follow you anymore.
There's that. There's like you put up a video that you probably think is cool. I mean, I'm so glad this didn't exist when I was younger because while, you know, being dumped by your best friend in 6th grade was hell. I don't know what if you're like put up a picture, you know, a video of you singing and you're, you know, and everybody comments that you're a total idiot loser.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's awful. You know, it's like,
God.
wait, I put myself out there and it was rejected.
Oh my God.
At such a tender age.
Yeah. Well, speaking of tender ages, Carrie, you've got a little girl who's like getting into school age. And how are you handling watching her start to like understand rejection?
It is weird because she will say something like, oh, so-and-so wouldn't play with me today. They just said they didn't want to play with me. And I'm like, oh God, like it hurts your little heart. But like, I'm just kind of like, sometimes people don't want to play with you and sometimes you won't want to play with other people. And I don't know. I kind of just try to like keep it very light with her and give her the tools to like redirect her focus and not get too bogged down in rejection. It's like another thing too. It's like my daughter is if I don't say so myself, very cute.
Oh,
But
she's
very
adorable.
She's very like verbal, and people are like, you should put her in acting and stuff. I'm like, first of all, I don't want to be in audition rooms as a mom. I don't want to be doing that. But I'm also like, that rejection so early. Like, I don't know if I can expose her to all of that, you know? Like,
oh, yeah. The only people that seem to not, we did an episode on Nepo babies, and the pro-Nepo baby argument is that they've actually grown up around seeing what the industry is and what it does. And so they might have a more evolved ability to handle the rejection that's involved in it.
I don't know. I used to babysit for a pretty famous Nepo baby, and she went right from Yale to HBO. So I don't know if there's a ton of rejection for the Nepos, but yeah, it is something that I feel like I put myself in my like my mom's shoes of like when I call her and I'm like, you have to come pick me up because like everybody kind of ditched me at like going to town or whatever. We used to just like walk around my town, and I'd be like, how am I going to handle that? And I don't have a plan yet. You know, I got to like read more blogs or whatever.
Alyssa, you've got a spirited niece. Has she ever had to deal with rejection? Like, what's her tack?
I'm not sure she has, and if she has, I'm not sure she knows it. She is a saucy little minx who likes to say, wee, you annoying. And I said, well, maybe you're being uncool. She goes, no.
Oh my God. My niece, okay, so I have one niece who is like 4 almost. And this is a very funny story about their daycare. So there was a bully at their daycare that was like mean to all the kids.
We had a bully at the daycare.
Yeah, there was a bully at the daycare, and all the parents were informed, like, hey, there's a bully at the daycare. And the only 2 kids that the bully wasn't bullying were my nephew and my niece. And the nephew is a little bit older than the niece. And my sister-in-law asked the nephew, like, you know, why do you think that you weren't being bullied? And my nephew was like, well, because I'm very kind to others, and I don't, you know, I'm always nice and whatever, and I always play with him. And she's like, okay. And asked the niece, why do you think he left you alone? And she goes, because I'm too powerful.
Yes, girl.
Yeah,
She gets it. She gets it.
She gets it. I feel like that's sort of maybe a way to wrap up this conversation, which we could continue to have for like hours.
Yes. I have more rejection stories.
Oh yeah,
I have so many, but
it's just, I mean, it's the line of work that we do. If you're a creative person in any way, it's just what happens. You just get rejected, and it's just part of life. But you just have to remember you're too powerful.
And it gets easier. It really gets easier.
Yeah.
Because the reason I think it gets easier is the older you get and the more you live your life, there's more yeses than nos. Mm-hmm. That's the truth. Like you've lived through more yeses, whether it's relationships or anything. There's been yeses, so many yeses. Mm-hmm. So like the nos, the yeses start to stack up and outnumber the nos. Is what
and also in hindsight, how much did the rejection actually matter?
Yeah.
Like in the minute, in the moment, it stung, but when you look back on it, you're like, all right, you know, we moved on.